But I always try and encourage people to like come on a bit of a journey with me and use the philosophy and wisdom of Chinese medicine and, you know, to our advantage to open up another view of life. Like there's not just one view that we were fed by our families or the media or whatever. There's other ways to view existence. I think at the core of it is probably like I never want anyone to feel like I felt, like not heard, not understood.
So thank you for allowing me to come and meet you for the first time.
Oh, that's really nice.
But as we've just discovered,
Yeah.
we met each other 2 years ago in the mutual WhatsApp
Yeah.
of the Deepak Chopra meditations group, which was fascinating. That was a bit of a model, I thought, because for me, I was like, oh, this works really well. It's like accountability, daily challenges, and, you know, non-negotiable, listen to the meditation. And that's what I like formatted the cold water course that I did 2 years in a row. It was like, let's do this via WhatsApp. Yeah. You know, bring in people from wherever they are, whether it's a cold shower or it's jumping in the sea, where get your cold water wherever you can. And then, yeah, it really works well. Because then you can just drip in other stuff and just get people to really introspect through something simple as sitting there and listening to something. Yeah. It might not be going that far with it, but that's almost like a way in, meeting them where they're at to then bring in other things. And it's probably the exercises that provoke the most change, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone takes different things at different levels, depending on where they're at with life, don't they?
Yeah,
so that's quite
it's
quite interesting when you hear what people's views or experience has been.
Yeah.
I've already had, like I said to you earlier, I'm running another one, and just getting people's private messages, hearing, you know, what's happening in their life or what their experience has been, or how some people have really struggled with some tasks and other people have just found it simple. It's amazing. It just shows, you know.
Yeah, I use
so many variables.
I use this too will pass. What was it? The parables, the story.
Yes.
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
I use that in the cold water group, and it's amazing. Because it's beautiful story, but it's just like everything is just going to change. Yeah. And it's just non-attachment to that. I mean, everyone kind of hears that and knows what it really means. But then when you hear it through a story and then you notice things in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a nice process, and it's nice to do that, like you say, in a whole group. And then how it ripples out to other people. That's always quite nice.
Yeah, and I think at the end they asked everyone to share on camera like their thoughts about.
I did not do that. Did you do that?
I don't
think
They're
you
still
did
waiting for you.
Yeah.
That's why the group's still open.
I just thought, no, I'm not, because I don't like being on camera. I was like,
how times have changed.
I am not doing that. And I felt bad about it because other people were sharing, but I was like, no, I don't really want to do that level of like,
well,
there.
you weren't ready, That's okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing another one now?
Yeah, with patients or
you
know, people I know. So just another big group. But I've done it twice, and each time it's been really powerful, you know, and I love that kind of, some people have never meditated before. That's, you know, so it's all brand new, and it's quite intense, I think, for people who've never meditated before to go into that. And then some people have done this before, this cycle before, and they want to do it again. Other people just wanted to explore abundance mindset and manifesting and things like that. So it's just a real mix mash of people. But everyone that's there, every single person in the group that I know of that's in there's a few that I don't know that well, but everyone's working on stuff. You know, they're actively working on their life or their spiritual development, or, you know, some area of their life where they're really wanting to zoom in on. So I think that's a nice kind of experience to share. You know, did you ever, you know, Glennon Doyle?
Not sure, no.
She had that book Untamed. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
It's you know, everyone's got different views, and I personally really enjoyed it. I recommended it to a lot of women to read. It's a really good book, in particular for women. But she has this saying, we can do hard things. And I always think it's really beautiful because, you know, quite often, definitely in my work, when I'm working with people can feel really alone because they don't often have this level of authenticity in their communication. Like, I'm really alone in this feeling, or I'm really alone with this challenge. And it's like, actually, you feel that, but there's everyone you meet is struggling with something, and everyone you meet is finding something deeply challenging. So sometimes I find it personally useful, when things are really, really hard. I think there's, depending on what it is, if it's a mothering challenge or whatever, I'm like, there's women everywhere struggling with this. It's not just me, or, other people are struggling with this, and there's lots of people out there pulling on their energy and stuff to get through things. So you feel less alone. And I think in the group allows that to be felt, right? Because you can see people showing up for themselves every day saying, I've done the activity, I've done the meditation. And so you don't feel so alone in your challenges. It's a nice thing.
Yeah, I think when you're feeling alone, it's really important to check into that language, because often I felt the most lonely when I've been around other people. So it's like, okay, what is this actually signaling? What is this signal? What is this feeling? Is it loneliness, or is it the fact that I can't communicate how I'm feeling? And that may make you feel lonely.
Yeah.
Or you are just feeling a little lost or off center, or just not in the right. You're in your head too much, and you can't be present with things, and that might make you feel isolated around other people who you perceive are doing what you really want to do.
Yeah.
So I think checking in with the language of it's a big one, like how we speak about things, because we sometimes, I was talking to a friend about this the other day, like speak into the future, our own demise. Like we talk about things like, this list I've got, admin, of course. It's a good example of like, terrible thing I've got going on. But when you really break it down, is it terrible? Or is what you're saying about the admin task making it so hard?
Yeah. I've actually got a really good saying for that. And I say it to so many people, and I say it to myself all the time. I'm like, what stress are you bringing to this stress? Or, what are you adding in here that is like old shit that you haven't dealt with, or an old thing that's cropping up? That happened before, and here it is again. And I'm always having to deal with this, and then it's going to come again. It's like, when really it's just this, it is, if you break it down, it's just this one time and moment, but this moment in time rather, but you're adding all the past experiences that might be similar, or, all your catastrophizing about what you think in the future and stuff.
Yeah, the memories that we bring to the stories that we bring along to it.
Yeah, and we all do that, don't we? I mean, I think everybody does that.
I think it's impossible not to.
Yeah.
Because then we'd have to learn everything again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like when you play out all the things that you know how to do because of your experience and that ability to memorize. Yeah. Then you're like, okay, I wouldn't get anything done if I had to learn over and over again the same thing. Yes, I'd be present, but not much. I wouldn't go in much of a direction. Yeah,
I'm not sure I'd want to learn a lot of it again either.
Yeah, that's true. You have to learn the hardest ways.
Yeah.
So what kind of brought you to this kind of work? And this kind of work, that's a very broad question. Yeah. Because I know you do lots of other things. And you're passionate about lots of stuff, but maybe just the meditation side of things, or did this come part and parcel of your studies in Chinese medicine and things like that?
It did, but actually it's interesting that you mentioned the meditation, because the meditation is the thing that came first. And I don't even think I ever remember being exposed to meditation or really knowing what it was growing up. And it wasn't really until I went travelling. I'd been really consumed. I was a very busy person for a lot of years, always busy. Always had 3 jobs on the go, or, working like a dog all the time. Never made much time to think and reflect on life really at all when I was younger. I just worked a lot. Had this real drive to be successful. I wanted to earn money, and I wanted to be financially secure, and I wanted to do all that myself. And, I was so focused on that. I didn't focus on life really much at all, in lots of ways. And then I always wanted to go travelling, never got the chance to do it. And then when I was about 23, 24 maybe, I decided to give up my job, which was a big deal because it was a lot of financial security and everything, and just go off travelling with my then partner, who's now Drew, my husband. And we went off travelling, which turned into 5 years travelling on and off. We were going for a year instead, came back now and again to earn money and do bits and pieces, but then went off. But it wasn't until I went travelling and I got some quiet time and kind of got still that I realised how mad my life had been. And obviously I know you've done a lot of travelling, the people you meet and how other people live their life, and you know, it's like just turns your own experience of life like upside
your ideas
down, and
what you thought success might be.
And what's happiness and contentment, and you know, I realised that my life had been quite traumatic, and I hadn't really realised that up until that point. You know, I realised what all the busyness was about. Really, it wasn't really about the success. I think it was about just not having the awareness or the tools to deal with what I'd been challenged with growing up. And that really did catch up with me, and I thought a lot about it, and I was really in a space of, I've got a lot of, I was a very angry person, and, you know, a lot of anger, and I didn't know what to do with it, and just completely by chance, this is a bit of a long-winded story, but completely by chance I met a man. Drew had gone away for a couple of nights to see some mine somewhere, and I wasn't interested, so I stayed it was in San Pedro de Atacama in the desert in Chile, and I watched this guy every day go out and just meditate, and I was like, wow, he just looks super like peaceful and content, and he doesn't need to be communicating with people. He's not busy. He's the exact opposite of how I would be. I would never sit beside a stranger and not talk to them, or, you know, he just was quiet all the time, kept himself to himself, but looked really happy with that. So I asked him about meditation. I asked him what it was all about, and that man just blew my mind. It's like something out of sounds like something out of a bit of a movie or a cliche, but he just
the stereotype's real. I'm sure it's happened to me a few times.
I don't know his name. I never. It was the days before Facebook and Instagram and all that malarkey. So
but you're open for him not to be real.
You know, honestly, I was speaking to my sister about it recently, and she just went, "He was an angel. He was like sent for you. Maybe. He was sent." And I don't know about that, but I definitely he talked to me about mindset and energy medicine, and he did some Reiki on me, and he just gave me all these really interesting tools to work through some of the stuff that he asked me really outright, direct questions about how I felt about life that nobody had ever asked me before. And I was just like, wow. And I was really open with him, because I thought, I'm never going to see him again. I don't care. I told him everything that was in my heart, kind of thing. And he introduced me to meditation. And I never forget that day. It's one of the best days of my life. I literally sat in a little cactus roof church by myself for hours, just feeling like, for the first time I could breathe, like, you know, like the whole weight of the world had just been lifted off my shoulder. I could see there was another way to kind of work through all the stuff I've been avoiding for years and running away from. It was amazing. He was really powerful, and I've still got all the notes that I took when I was writing like crazy when he was telling me all the things. And so through meditation I thought, wow, we can change how we feel that quickly. Like we can alter ourselves and our experiences so quickly. I mean, it was so instant. Some of the stuff that night, I slept differently. I just felt like a different person, and it got me into meditation regularly. So I started doing regularly, trying to find books and things and information around some of the stuff he was talking to me about. And I thought I'd love to do something like this where I help people. You know, I'd love to help people see that there's another way at looking at life, and there's another way to be with life, rather than that kind of pushing, striving type energy, you know.
Yeah, powerful.
And then that's how I came to acupuncture. And then everything kind of followed on from there. So it was really through my own kind of, and I think this is quite true with a lot of people who work in this realm, if they're being honest, maybe.
Yeah, it's true for me.
It's the same,
in terms of like, it's not to say, you know, I'm healed, but, you know, I've found relief and a different relationship with life. And once you have that, or like you learn more about it, I guess it's again cliches, like you're set free, but then what do you want to do with that?
Yeah.
Do you want to go off and live the kind of successful life? No, it's like, no, I want to use this. And it's almost like there's this energy that you want to use to help other people, because you know what it's like to have been in a position which doesn't feel good.
Definitely. And I think when I think about it, I think, like, you know, there was all this process started of learning, which is obviously still ongoing, and I'm like I'm still ongoing in my own journey. And I think you probably feel like you're never going to finish that, and I'm fine with that, because what I'm learning along the way is like really powerful and meaningful, and it's like every so often I feel a change again, like I suppose more of a softening into, rather than a striving for to be healed, or a push, or a an impatience. It's more of a kind of Taoist, like, oh, it's just flowing, and I'm going to flow with it and see what comes next. And all the learnings are just so meaningful for my life, and how I feel about life and feel about other people and view other people. It's just it just opened up the kind of aperture. Is that aperture? Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Opened
wider scope.
Yeah, like
let in more light.
Yeah,
That's
in more
a
light.
great analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of, for me, I feel like a lot of the times when I'm working with people in here, and I work really intimately with people, I can really I set it off from the first session, like, this is how we communicate in here. It's not like outward communication. It's like, let's just be completely, like, all of you is welcome here. If you turn up raging against the world, that's fine. If you turn up needing silence, that's fine. If you turn up needing love, that's fine too. Like, whatever you need when you're here. And it's so profound working with people when you hear about life all day. I hear about mostly, some people come in and it's straight in with needles, and they want nothing else from me, and that's fine too. But I always try and encourage people to, like, come on a bit of a journey with me and use the philosophy and wisdom of Chinese medicine, and to our advantage, to open up another view of life. Like, there's not just one view that we were fed by our families or the media or whatever. There's other ways to view existence, in harmony and balance and all of that kind of thing. And I often feel huge gratitude for the adversity that I did face growing up, because it really allows me to tap in a little bit easier when I'm with people, because I think part of the power, it all started with meditation and then wanting to help people, but I think at the core of it is probably, like, I never want anyone to feel like I felt, like not heard, not understood, or not validated in where they were at. So, like, I feel like my biggest drive is to make people feel heard and validated, and all of the other work we do is beautiful and healing and helps them with their symptoms. But my favourite part is to, do that part.
Yeah, I think the space that you've just mentioned, and I can feel it when I'm here. I can feel that openness. It's like the world's, I can see it. I mean, there's glass everywhere.
Yeah.
And I can see the world, but then I'm in this kind of safe area, which it's sad that there aren't more spaces like this, or it's not like a common space that we can feel in our families or in our friendship circles. And because that speaks, it speaks a lot, the zero judgment that space brings.
Yeah,
it's almost like you can see people, and I really try my best to see people walking down the street or in a shopping mall and see them as me, or see them in their experience, and with all their traumas, with all their life challenges and obstacles, and, like, really just see people, and then without all my stories of what this person's wearing or acting like, or so it's trying to create that space, like in more spaces, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. But it's so important just to see other humans as we are, as people, That's
why I think podcasts like yours are really important, and, like, spaces that I hold. I mean, I hold one-to-one space, but and that allows for the whole storytelling thing, and that's amazing, and it's really, really important work. But I think things like podcasts and all the stuff that we're that's available to us now, when we can hear people tell their stories from that place of vulnerability. And I know, for example, on my Instagram page, every time I talk about alcohol and relationships with alcohol, every single time I talk about it, at least one person will contact me, because I always leave it open for people to contact me if they want to talk about it. And every time someone's contacted me and said, I really resonate with what you've written, I'm struggling with my relationship with alcohol, and we have a conversation, and they make a change. So, like, people like us or other people out there doing it. At my Instagram, I don't know about yours, but mine's just, people go on about social media really negatively. Like, I actually love Instagram, because my Instagram's just flooded with amazing people and fun and realness and uplifting stuff, and people out there who are genuinely like trying to help people, and that maybe they're not even, don't have a background of that, or that's not their full-time job, but they're still on there putting themselves out there, full vulnerability, telling people their stories to try and help other people, cope with their story and find ways to heal. And I just think that's a really beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I've always felt that with I choose to see these things. Of course, there's sponsors, and I guess that's the other angle of like, God, it is very addictive, and I'm doing it unconsciously, and that's what I'm frustrated about. I think more so in the last year, 2 years. Before that, I felt a very different energy with it. Now it feels like even more contriving, maybe because I'm putting more intention into it, perhaps. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But you are creating your own experience there. You're just choosing the people that you want to follow. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice platform, but again, it goes back to that. I think a lot of people don't realise that there might be more option for authentic contact and communication than they think. I really feel in here a deep yearning for authentic communication, and I think what a lot of people can struggle with is, well, where are these people, like, who don't think you're being too much of something if you speak about things, like your men's group, I think is really powerful. I'm so happy to support you in publicising that, because especially for men, I'm a mum of two boys, and I feel there's women's groups have been going for a long time, right? They've been going forever, but the kind of like the uprising in women's circles is really amazing. This last 10 years, it's just been incredible, and they're just multiplying all the time, and it's a beautiful thing because we need more, and every women's group will attract a different type of woman, but it gives the space and the platform to kind of support each other and be heard and all of that. But for men, it's a bit of a different thing, isn't it?
There's a lot going on in that space. It's interesting, but thank you for saying so, because I think this does speak to everything I'm trying to like put out there, or like would love to create that space where men can be seen, be heard, and be angry, and be sad, and it not be judged, and it be held in a nice, safe space where no one's really, going to give you too much advice unless you really ask for it. And there's going to be a lot of things you will need to agree on to allow that space to be there. We're quite fragmented, aren't we? And there's like, it's quite complex, and all the cultures and subcultures of the humans and how we interact with each other. But yeah, what you're saying about podcasts, I think, you can travel the world and have this device in your pocket and connect to these conversations. And again, one reason why I wanted to create that, because it is so powerful. And they changed my life. Like, podcasts definitely changed my perceptions, my beliefs about things, and just listen to people with zero agenda. What felt like authentic, because they haven't got an agenda that they're speaking to, or they're trying to sell you something. That does come into it. I don't like adverts that cut the conversation and then send you off to an advert, but I think I would ever do that. But the men's group is something that I'm going to have to nurture, and I'm going to have to consistently show up in. I'm feeling that in the early stages of like, okay, this is more, this is so much more than just me creating a website and saying, come on, man, here we go. It's like, no, this is like deep work that I'm trying to, even for myself. It's like, I'm not fully healed, and I'm not some wise sage who is just gonna tell you how to live or guide you in a direction. I'm like, no, I want to just show up with you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be so fascinated to see how that goes for you, because I know when I work with men, like, it's very, sometimes when I work with men, it's really interesting when people send me their husbands or their boyfriends or their granddads or whatever.
Drop them off at the door.
They're literally like, I don't know how he's going to respond to like talking about, and I'm like, I don't speak to men like that. I like gauge really quickly. How do they need me to communicate so that this doesn't feel too much? And
meeting them wherever they're at.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, a lot of the times with men, it's very like we're just talking about evidence-based medicine for Chinese medicine and muscles and tendons and you know, stuff like that. But not always. But sometimes if I can feel that there's a need or a desire for a little bit more depth to communication, or if I say something about Chinese medicine that I think might be useful and I see them really engaged with it, I'm like, oh right, this is a really good time to like do my little part, my small part, and showing men that they can have this beautiful feminine presence that wants nothing from them, you know, doesn't demand them to be any type of man, you know, just here to like hold some space with you and you know, be part of a process that hopefully can be maybe more meaningful than just getting your tight calves released. Do you know what I mean? Like, because really,
because your tight calves might be something emotional.
Well, more often than not, you know, it's like, you know, you can't help it with Chinese medicine. You're sitting there and you're thinking differential diagnosis and patterns.
Well, you're looking at it as the whole. We can't just treat one thing.
Can't, and it's.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Because you don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why this is amazing. It's a really nice gateway and introduction. It feels to me a little bit like my introduction with the meditation. You know, I thought he was just going to tell me, you sit there and you be quiet and you sit like this and you breathe like that. And I didn't know he was going to talk to me about all this. Like, what? You know, this exists, this way of thinking. And then it's an amazing, you know, so amazing. I love working with people when they're in that beginning phase, like I was when I first, first get introduced to this kind of stuff.
It's almost like your biggest challenge. It's like when I talk about teaching yoga, it's like it's so challenging for me to teach beginners because I can't just get away with anything. They're really their like attention is on it, and it's you have to really show up as a teacher in that.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, it is. So I had a guy actually contact me for the men's group, and it really, for me, I was like, okay, I want to take this opportunity to challenge, because I felt this person was coming with his own stories and his beliefs about what it means to be a man, and that's absolutely fine. Like, I'm not here to tell anyone what it means for you to be who you are. It's literally just, let's explore this. But we got on a call and it was great. But then after the call, he actually said, well, he was very firm in saying, I don't want any of the yoga. That's fine. You know, I don't want to introspect. I think women demand that of us, and you know, it doesn't always need to be the case. And I was like, yeah, for sure. That's a big conversation, because you know, we can be sat on a rock contemplating life forever, but that's not where life happens. So it's like there's a balance here, of course. So we chatted about it, and then he must be the words he chose was doing the yoga stuff and doing breathing practice or doing a breath work would be emasculating, and it would be embarrassing. And I was like, okay, well, why do you feel that will be the case? And because for me, what is emasculating? And I was really like sat with this, like, why do men feel emasculated by doing certain things? Maybe it's holding your girlfriend's purse while she shops. That for men is such a powerful image of like what it means to be emasculated. But then I really come to the understanding, and we were going back and forth, and it was I felt like it was a really good conversation to have, and he was looking for more blokey bloke type meetups, because there's not them either, and there's space for them. But he was interested in the walks and stuff, but it was interested that he obviously went through the information and was still drawn to it, because I'm not pulling any punches.
You've told it.
Definitely, there's a picture of me just sat there with legs crossed. And it's very much like, you know, this is who I am. First of all, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but some friends gave me some feedback. Oh, you should really, like, you know, you're missing out, and this will benefit you. And I was like, well, yeah, I get that this is actually, I'm very happy that you've said that, because that's not me, and that's what's missing. So okay, but
what kind of things?
Just like, you know, you really, the way they market something, it's like, you know, you're missing out. This is an opportunity for you, and if you don't take this opportunity, then you know it's then you've missed out, kind of thing, you know, marketing kind of. So that was interesting. But yeah, back to the story. I was like really sitting with this. Why do men feel emasculated? By doing something as simple as sat on the floor, breathing and moving, which is essentially what yoga is. Not well, the physical side of it. And I was thinking, well, the only time you're ever going to be emasculated is if you do it to yourself. Because it's your own idea of what it firstly means to be manly, and then secondly what it means to not be manly. And we had a conversation. I was like, well, in the East, most of the people who practice yoga are men. In the West, it's female. Why is that? So it was quite.
And it's dominated at the hierarchy of it.
For sure,
by men.
It is,
as most things are. Same in Chinese medicine.
Yeah. But it was really interesting.
It is an interesting conversation, that, isn't it? It's that alone that really holds back a lot of the, you know, if I'm ever working with like young boys, and they're struggling with mental health, I always get the dad to come and chat with me first, because especially if they're teenagers. You know, if they're younger, I'll focus more on mum, because there is a thing where boys are very close energetically and things to their mum when they're younger. But there's a great guy called Steve Riddulph. Have you heard of him?
No,
he wrote a book called Raising Boys.
I've heard of the book.
Yeah. So he talks about how the dad then becomes the main role model, you know, like in times when you would come into that age of initiations and all that kind of stuff. So the male role model is really vital. So if I'm talking to the mum and the parents out with the session and saying, like, it would be good to look at things like meditation and mindfulness and breathing and talking about authentically about how you can feel afraid and scared and worried and all these things, I always get the dad to do it. You know, and because it's more powerful to have their big dad lay down beside them and go, you know, I get stressed too, and I can get anxious at times, and I find breathing really helps me, and let's do it together. You know, because I could do with it too. This is actually really good for me. It's good that we're doing this together, you know, or something like that. Yeah,
especially that's a powerful example, because it is on men to do that. It just can't be on women to have those conversations, because then the child will automatically feel like, well, this is what mummy does and what helps mummy. And it becomes a woman thing. Whereas in cultures and times gone by in history, it would have been the men that would have been. I'm really interested in these kind of ceremonies and initiations and things that we've lost. You know, it's the same with like the women's red tent movement and all that kind of thing. You know, where women would come together to support one another and nourish one another, and you know, like in Chinese medicine, they have a thing called the month. So when you have a baby, the mum does nothing for a whole month. The whole community are cooking. She's just breastfeeding. That's all she's doing. Or feeding, whatever way she chooses to feed. That's all she's doing, and resting and bonding and recovering from flipping 9 months of pregnancy and then childbirth, which is mega. How do we go from that to like in America, where you get 2 or 3 weeks maternity leave and you're straight back into this busy back into your size 8 jeans, looking great out, having cocktails, you know? How do we go from feel like that's that's human?
Yeah, and that should be a good thing. Like, you know, when you
that's what we're striving towards.
Yeah, but where's that taken us? That's taken us to flipping.
I think we're so malleable, aren't we? Like our mindset and our mentality towards things, and how our relationship with life. It's so malleable. It like can change, and we can just lose that understanding of what it means to be human, or what it means to be a man or woman. And it is fascinating. It is fascinating. The rites of passage and the initiations, and it's almost like an archetypical situation, but it's almost been a part of culture for as long as you could date back to.
Yeah, I think things are changing though. You know, groups like yours coming up. I mean, you just wouldn't have seen that. I don't know, even 15 years ago.
Good.
Well,
I know what you mean. But,
it's
what I'm doing, I'm combining lessons and experience that I've got from other groups. Yeah. And almost bringing in, like the Bruce Lee effect. takes what's
nothing's
useful.
ever our own, is it?
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah.
And if you view life that way, then be like, right, where do I want to spend my time? What do I learn about? Because then I'm going to end up doing that more. So yeah, it is changing. It is going in different directions. But for me, I feel like it's just more important. I think if I tune into, even that, and like 100 years ago, the agrarian to industrialization, like where did we spend our... I was listening to this. I'm listening to an audiobook at the moment called No More Mr. Nice Guy. So the nice guy syndrome, or whatever you call it, and you suppress and avoid conflict and try and be nice, and it just doesn't end up being effective at all. You don't get girls that way, and it's like it's just really interesting. Great book by Robert Glover, and he talks about this. He's speaking from the American point of view, but there have been real significant things in the in society that have changed, from agrarian to industrialization. What that meant, men going to work, boys being at home, like that just in an example is like so potent to think about. And then like the sexual revolution, the Vietnam War, and all of this kind of cultural situations that happened. But we have to unpick that to really see where we've come from, to then learn about, okay, well, why has this ended up in this way, you know? So I think unpicking it's really important.
It is, and it's interesting actually, because sometimes, like this whole industrial revolution, this 8 hours sleep a night that we need, and 8 hours in the factories earning money, and my little 6-year-old said to me recently, is it a weekend? And I was like, no, it's school tomorrow. And he's like, why do we only get 2 days? And I'm like, I know. It's just, I feel you. Yeah, it's like, why do we only get 2 days? It's like, what, 5 days of the week we have to be working, and 2 days. And
I was like, Henry Ford.
Yeah. But, well, do you know, it's just the way it's gone when the factories opened. That's what happened, right? We just had to go out and go to the factories and work. But it even comes down to like how that impacts how we just live out, how we live, how we've been impacted so greatly by that. The kind of concept of, for example, 8 hours sleep a night. I mean, every podcast I listen to is always talking about sleep, right? As one of the vital things for health, which it is, and I agree. I don't disagree. But quite often when I'm working with people, they're really stressed about this waking thing in the night. And before we were in the factories, our sleep cycle was radically different. Right, we used to go in and out of sleep, and when we woke in the dead of night, it was a time for lovemaking or prayer or meditation or reflection or practices like that, things that connect us with ourselves or our lover or whatever, connection. Now people wake up and they're like, oh, I've got to get to sleep because got work in the morning. And I think, God, it's interesting how and then things can develop from that, other things come out of that, other pathologies can develop in the body from the stress around this the sleep cycle and all of that kind of stuff.
As we know, largely stress is created by your belief or your perception of it, right? Yeah. It's fascinating. There's a study, I think it's the Hadza tribe, who are like natural templates of humans that have existed for, since hunter-gatherers. I mean, there are none left, I don't believe, but there are certain tribes in the world that are living in more of a natural template, and they studied their sleep-wake cycles, and there's not a constant 8 hours of sleep. I mean, I find myself never really having a problem with sleep. I could sleep 8, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah, me too.
But it's, so do I feel like a hypocrite speaking about sleep when I never had a problem? No. There has been a study that the sleep-wake cycles that within humans who are living in a natural way, they get up, they move around, they change position, they sleep on the floor, and they're constantly up and down, and they don't judge it. They don't think it's a problem.
That's the thing I'm trying to get to, because sometimes I work with people who have retired or aren't even working, and they're talking about that, and I try and say, what about if we just forget about this 8 hour block of sleep, and what about if we just focus on using that time for something like meditation. Or I always try and encourage meditation because it's really good for, just like slowing everything down, and maybe you would fall back asleep if that's what if you want. But if you don't have to get up and go to the factory, then maybe there's an opportunity for, maybe you're more creative at that time. Maybe your writing would be more, have more depth and meaning. Maybe your painting would be a different. I think a lot of artists actually do that, don't they?
Maybe. I think it's a signal, isn't it? It's a call to action. Do you answer the call, or do you ignore it? I don't know what that actually means. Maybe you want to get up and explore, like meditating, being creative, like.
But it does come down to as well that we do choose this. We choose this 8-hour work a day, or 12 hours, or whatever it is. We all do. 5 days a week.
I've chosen not to.
Yeah, good for you. I'm trying to. That's my aim.
We'll see how it goes, but it's a lifestyle.
Good for you. Yeah, it's. I totally get that though, Chris. Like, I really get that.
Do you follow Tony Riddle on?
No, I don't follow. I know of him.
He put up a post about his, because people always ask him. Yeah. Because it's like, I think it's a bit of a victim mindset of, well, good for you doing all this stuff, but you don't have 5 kids, 6 kids, whatever. This amount of money, mortgage, whatever, and like coming from that perspective, like, how do you, fit all this in? But he just breaks it down. He's like, right, I work 7 days a week. There'll be times in the day where I don't work, prioritize this. But he would just break it down a very practical way of like, right, you can fit all this in, but you just have to compromise on some things that you value now and don't then.
I think that's really true. I mean, I say, I complain all the time about working too much. But I'm fully aware of what I choose and what I don't choose. I choose this right now because it suits my family better. Doesn't suit me ideally at the minute in my rhythms, but it suits my family's needs at the minute. That all told, it's like everything can be changed in a minute, right? I hear this all the time. It's like my biggest, I think it was probably one of my biggest learnings in my life was to stop being a victim. Like, just stop living like a victim, make a change. If you wanted to, I had someone recently who was saying to me that she would really love to study Chinese medicine. And I was kind of like, oh, that's great, and she was like, I would like to do it. And I was like, do you like to do it because you hate your job? Because I know she was hating her job at the time. Do you hate the job, or do you really want to do Chinese medicine? She was like, oh, yeah, I think it would be really nice to, you come in here and it's like working in a little garden room and it's all very pretty and it looks lovely on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, changing this, you have to go and do a degree. You're going to have to study a lot. You're going to have to do continued professional development. You're going to have to give up the fancy car and the bits and bobs because you won't be able to afford them if you're not earning the money to, whilst you're doing the thing. It's hard work. You see lovely Instagram posts and stuff, but quite often I'm absolutely spent by the end of the day, or whatever. There's all sorts of stuff going on around it. It's not an easy job. You have to really, really, really want to help people to do this job. I earn less now than I did when I was 21. So if money's important to you for the holidays and the cars, don't make that leap. Like, have a think about it. And afterwards, she said to me, I'm really pleased we had that conversation because, I don't want to give up. I want this lifestyle. So we talked about, well, how do we let you enjoy your job? If you don't want to leave the job, what do we do to make it that you like the job? Where's the opportunity in your business to make the change and all that stuff?
And a lot of jobs, I speak to this about people, well, your business employee wants the most out of you. Like, do you want to go part-time? Maybe there's a way you can do that with the company, but it's, or there's certain things within the job that you could change or you could ask for. But a lot of time, I feel people don't really know what they want. No.
That was a good example. I want to change. I want something to change. I'm unhappy because I think I hate my job. See something else that looks a bit shiny. Maybe it's there, leap, make a change. But instead of if we don't take time to really feel in and listen to ourselves and think about these things really seriously, we're just going to keep chasing the shiny things and not really learning anything, and not, or worse still, staying stuck and feeling stuck when you realize when you could realize that there's 100 different options available to you, but you're just choosing, you're choosing to a large extent. I know it's not that simple. Some people have very complicated situations, and
for sure,
especially if they're married with kids, and there's like things like that. It's not that simple, but it kind of is as well, because there is always an option. I know what I want to do to change my working schedule really clearly, and I'm working towards it. So I feel good about that. But I think that's, again, why it's important to speak to people and have open, authentic communication, so that you can come to these realizations and make resolve. And, that whole process of being stuck in itself is a great process, because it means that you're not, right? Because you're just about to become unstuck, because you realize you're stuck. Why am I stuck in this shit? Or why am I stuck in this loop? Or why am I stuck in this pattern? If you use that as fuel,
I'm not, I just think I am. And what I consider to be a long time is actually just a short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. What are some of the best ways that you've found to get to know, like, what direction you want to move in, or like what you want out of a situation, to kind of reconnect to that part of you that is more like intuitive, or like a deeper sense of knowing?
Yeah, I suppose a lot. I think the thing I always kind of start with stuff like that is breathing. Because I think, and it's such a simple tool, but how often do we do this, right? Most of us are running about all day like, like on the hamster wheel, and I feel like shit, I feel tired, I'm just going to have a glass of wine, or I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to numb out, or I'm going to, do X, Y, Z, whatever the activity is, and then go to bed stressed out of my head and wake up and just stay on the hamster wheel. But in actual fact, if you just took a minute, it doesn't even take long. I mean, like, really take a minute, like not just breathing, like really getting in, like, doing whatever it takes, touching, I always love, like, hand on Mother Earth, hand on heart, just like really, listening, just for a few breaths, and then ask myself, what do I need? Like, what is the one thing I need? What's the one step that I can take right now that leaves me from feeling stuck in the loop? And I think just the breath, that simple breath, can give you enough space. With the breath, obviously you're creating internal space. So quite often when we're in these phases in life, it can feel like everything's like crowding in on us, and I can't think. It's just too much overwhelm. Create the space, make some space, in our heads, in our body, helps us to have that time. And when you make that space, then you can logically think and rationally see in a way that you can't if you're just in the anxiety loop of, and that's a really small step. There's lots of steps that come after that, but I think if you give people lots of steps, even that's overwhelming. If you were to say to sit down and deeply think about, say for example it was your job, what is it bringing to you, or what do you enjoy about it, or where are the really sweet points with this, and then what are the points that are really challenging and hard and you wish weren't a feature, and then what do you just change that from there, and then what does that involve, and then before you know it, you're going through everything. That could be like having a hard conversation with my husband about, I need to change my work cycle, or this means earning less money in the home. How does that impact you? How does that impact our family? It's a lot to think through if you're thinking about making a big change like that, but you have to start with a breath or something. Yeah,
generally big changes are made up of lots of small ones.
Yeah. I don't think it's that simple to, or maybe it is. Maybe I'm complicating it. What do you think?
Maybe. I don't know. It depends. I think there's lots of nuances to it. But I think that's a great example of one way you can just tune back in. The simple ones are.
Well, the thing is, it's like even just breathing, right? It's like when we're in that space, we're just in the thinking mind, right? And as we know, the mind is the anxious mind, the afraid mind, the whatever parts of us that all exist, and all of us have them, right? And sometimes others are louder than the others. Quite often the confident, assured one's really quiet, like really quiet, and the anxious one, for example, seems to always be the loudest, or the afraid one is really loud. And it's like recognizing that all of those parts of us are true for us, and they all exist in all of us, not just you. Everyone is dealing with these internal mental battles. So then we need to kind of almost shelve the mind, you know. It's like, for me, I kind of think of it like as, you know, your emotions can't be bigger than you because they are you, right? So these thoughts cannot be bigger than me. This stress or overwhelm can't be bigger than me because it is me. So I need to come into me, not the thinking, doing head. I also have to come into when I'm breathing, into the heart and the gut, you know. We've got 3, you know, intelligence centers, and they all speak to us, but we only listen to this one. Like, this is the most important one, yet this is the one that will lie to us all the time. I think if you really breathe into the heart and the gut, quite often, you know, when I ask patients to do that, sometimes they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's okay, we're not going to rush it. I'm going to sit here for a while and you're just going to breathe. And if nothing comes up today, we'll try it tomorrow. Because people are so disconnected from those intelligence centers because they're just in here.
I often find with myself, I'm always afraid of getting something wrong. So when I have that space to be like, all right, let's let go of the thoughts. What's coming out, just say straight away. Don't think, and just someone asks me a question, I'll just try and like answer it. But what prevents me from just speaking from that place is like the fear of getting it wrong. And what gets wrapped up in that is then the speaking into the fear rather than the letting it kind of come out.
And then can you say to yourself like, oh, I feel afraid?
Yeah. So I had Jeff Shub on my podcast. Did you see that one? He's out in Costa Rica or somewhere around there. And we did some coaching together. Yeah. He's like embodiment coaching and.
Oh no! Wait a minute! I don't think I did see that one.
No. Man bun. Big beard.
Oh no! I did see that one. Yeah, I did see that one. I watched
very
so many.
Interactive.
You did so many. My head.
It was a lot in a month. He's very interactive. He was like bringing other people in to the conversation. So we had some coaching together. Yeah. And he just calls. I mean, I was anxious every time I was about to get on a call with him. Yeah. And I was like, okay, great. That's really good. Yeah. Because if I'm feeling comfortable, this isn't what this is about. No, it's like absolutely. Go deeper. It's like understanding more. And every time it was like he'd call me out and be like, no, like what is it? And he'd always speak about these primary emotions, you know, the fear, the frustration, the anger, frustration, sadness and joy. And it's like, which one is it? Yeah. They're the primary colours, they're the primary emotions. Yeah. And he would just speak into it and it would be like, yeah, it's this. And then immediately I would just, like I wouldn't have many words for what I was experiencing. The words disappeared. I couldn't even use them. And it would just be, yeah, it's this. Or it would be a much more simple way of speaking because I know I couldn't get away with it with him. Yeah. He wouldn't just be like, oh, okay, so tell me more about that. I'd be like, that's not it. What is it?
Yeah, it's good to work with someone like that, isn't it?
Well, not for me. But yeah, ultimately, yes. Yeah. But these things aren't comfortable. No. It's having a relationship of like, all right, how much do I want the thing? Yeah. How much do I want the change? Yeah. Can I cope a little bit longer? Probably. Yeah. But like, do I really want it? How, what's it going to take? Is it for me to hit rock bottom? And I have this interesting conversation. Speaks to what we were saying at the start of like how I don't, do people need to hit that like earth-shattering rock moment to then change? We often don't change until things go wrong. I don't believe that, but I think it's an interesting conversation to be like, right, what's going to provoke the change? How much awareness do I have to catch myself before I fall?
I don't think we need it either, but I think it definitely helps. I can see that when I work with people when they're really like, and it's like, I need to draw a line in the sand. Like when people say that to me when they come in here, and quite often that's the sentence that people say, I've got to draw a line in the sand. I'm really? Like, oh yes, because I know we're going to do some great work. Because they're just like, I'm so sick of myself. I'm so sick of my life. I'm so sick of my patterns. I'm so sick of, I'm just so sick. Like I'm sick of it, and it's like great because you can see, I watched a great talk the other day, someone talking about this, this like the psychology around motivation. So like when I did my health coaching training, they talked all about mental rehearsal and the focus on seeing the positive outcome and like feeling it and living it and amping it up and using all of your senses and really, but like abundance and practice and And I totally love that. I love that. I do that. I did it to get this treatment room. I used to sit in here when it was a glass greenhouse with a cup of tea, and I used to think this will feel. I used to sit under that grapevine and think, people will walk in here and they'll just breathe differently, and I'll breathe differently working here, and it'll be so, the trees going, and just the flowers and the smells, and I used to live it when I sat in here, so I really totally get that. But this whoever it was, I think it was Huberman. What do you call him?
Andrew Huberman.
Yeah. And he was saying about the power behind seeing how bad it can get. Like, how bad will it get if I do nothing? Where's this going? If I do nothing, how's this going to impact one thing after the rest of my life? And that's quite powerful, I think, because initially my body was like, oh no, I don't know about that, because that's quite negative and frightening. And
so this came up in a workshop I did about purpose,
right.
And the question at the end was, where do I see, it was something along those lines, like, where do I see this going if I make the change, or where is this going if what I want to happen does happen, where would it go? If I want to happen doesn't happen and I don't make that change, what's the worst case is this going to get? Like, predicting and visualizing where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, on my own. No one around me. If this continues to happen. So it's only going to change when you really predict that outcome of, like, not speaking your truth or not having honest conversations with your friends or your family. Yeah. Absolutely. Or, like, if there's something I want to talk to my father about that I haven't yet, and it's been yearning for years, what's the worst thing? Oh, okay, he passes away and I never tell him.
Yeah.
And that's a real, big one to kind of sit with.
Definitely. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I've been thinking a lot about stuff like that recently, about, the kind of impact of not saying what you feel and saying what you see. And I feel like it's definitely a personal strength of mine to really open-heartedly say to people what I see, and be really comfortable telling people when I see something beautiful in them, or I see a real strength in them, or I think I see really great potential in what they're doing. I just love that energy. I think, yes, I'm going to tell. And if they get embarrassed, or if they don't like it, or whatever, I don't care. I take a chance and tell someone, because at the very least, it's going to at least make someone, even if it makes them uncomfortable, it'll probably at some level make them feel good. But I think having those hard conversations with people, or those more direct conversations and actions or whatever that you need to do, that's a whole different story, isn't it? But they're usually probably the most profound and most important, especially if you're talking about maybe never seeing someone again, or you've missed that opportunity to. I think I imagine a lot of people would be on their deathbed thinking about that, things they wish they'd said or told people. Or
what's the book? It's the 5 top
regrets of the dying.
It's fascinating to think about that, just as a thought experiment.
It's also a great thought to think, if you're lying on your deathbed, what are you thinking about your life, how you lived, how you loved, how you whatever. Are you pleased with that? Are you proud with how that's looking?
Yeah, there was this scene in Terminator 1, I think, when I watched as a kid, and the waitress leans over, and then the little kid puts a ice cream scoop in her pocket, a scoop of ice cream.
Remember that? Yeah.
Oh, it's hilarious, because no one ever remembers it. This is a silly scene. But what really impacted me was this woman going, in 100 years, who's going to care? And I'm like, wow, in 100 years, who's going to care? And I just kept repeating it. And it's not to say that I can do what I want. Like, generally, I won't start fighting and hit, like just doing silly, negative things. But I was like, wow, why aren't I having that conversation? Why aren't I asking that girl if she wants to come dance with me?
Yeah,
like, in 100 years, we're not going to be here.
Exactly.
Like, this conversation will be...
I love that.
But it's just silly. I said it to Nina yesterday. Landlord was in the flat, and she was like, should we mention about the the shower head. We want a new one. And I was like, yeah, in 100 years, who's going to care? Like, say it. So what if he says no? I don't care. She didn't say it. But
why didn't you say it?
The quest continues. I know. I didn't. You know what? I thought about that. And I was like, yeah, should. I know. It's hilarious. But they're the opportunities. There will be more. So it's okay. But yeah, it's such a powerful one to take these little thought experiments and apply them.
Yeah, and even those kind of ideas of like the hard things you're dealing with, right, or the really challenging moments, like will this matter? You know, will this matter?
If I don't say it, but probably not. But if I do say it, it will matter. Yeah, it goes both ways. But
it's all the great unsaids, and it's such a shame, isn't it? Because I think maybe my generation, the generation before, and before that, I feel in large, obviously not everyone, but in large, this kind of open communication is really, really challenging for our parents. You're obviously younger than me, but you know, my parents for sure, like, they would just don't talk emotions, don't talk love, don't talk, you know, don't do physical, all that kind of stuff. And
but they're the like most important fundamental things that we all need.
Yeah, and they're all and those conversations that you can get that, you know, I'm really intrigued about, like my parents' upbringing, things they don't, you know, that generation don't seem in large, don't talk a whole lot about their experiences the way we do. We're so much more open and explorative, and you know, emotional intelligence is like a really big deal for my generation, you know, and things, and not so much for them. But again, it comes back to that idea of telling stories. Like I was thinking about sometimes when I meditate or I do ceremony for myself, I quite often think about ancestors, think about my granny and granda in particular. They were really important people in my life, and I often think, I wish I'd spent more time asking them more about how they felt about things in their life. You know,
100%. Yeah.
I just wish, and I don't want to. With my parents, I try to ask them about their lives, because I think it's really, it helps you understand more about who you are as well, and you know.
The one thing a friend of mine, he lives on the coast, he talks about all the time is like ask your family, like ask them how they are, or like what was their relationship with their parents. It opens up so much. Yeah. Like, what was your relationship like with your parents?
And it helps you understand why they are the way they are, and why you are the way you are, and then why you don't have kids, Kristen, you know? No. So, yeah, and why you're the parent you are. That's like a...
yeah, that's the biggest one, isn't it?
That's so triggering, right? So that's like, wow, why am I doing this? Why am I saying this? Where's this coming from? I've got to trace this one back, because I feel, and I think a lot of people would feel in my age range, like it's up to me to cut some chains, you know, like... Pass it back or pass it forward. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's still going to be what it's going to be, but...
You're going to screw up your kids.
It's like that, is it Philip Larkin poem? Your parents will F you up and then you'll F up your kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that's what he says. I can see how that would be.
Yeah. What angle he's coming at.
But trying to minimise it as much as possible.
Yeah, amazing. Should we wrap this up?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for firstly inviting me here.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you.
It's been great meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
Connecting. Did you want to share anything maybe about something we've said, or, you know, your work, and anything on that note that you want to just put out there and direct people to? And
not really. If you're going to find me, you'll find me. If you're meant to find me, you'll find me. In terms of working capacity, I think probably what I'd like to end on is what we were talking about earlier in terms of that importance. Don't be afraid to seek out authentic communication, because it is out there in abundance. And I feel like in the Northeast in particular, actually, I think we've got a great network of people out there holding really great groups and circles and events, and there's lots of really great people around doing some amazing work. And feeling that, don't be shy to take a chance and speak to someone at a level that feels a bit scary. You might be surprised.
Very true. Yeah, the Northeast is a special place.
It is,
as are so many places, but obviously because we live here, it's interesting because we live in such a lot of young people now live in this digital kind of world a lot of the time. And it's so fascinating, interesting, all these people doing wonderful things all around the world or in other parts of the country. But then, as I've done with kind of like shifting the podcast to, okay, let's bring in a lot of local people and connecting with more local people. And it's just fascinating that people are having these conversations in Jasmine. And, you know, you just, because we get caught up in this digital world of like the fascinating conversation that's going on over there, we don't ever sometimes shine the light on who's around us, you know, and seek those out, because you do often need to seek.
You do. And there's so many people around here. Like, I've met some really, actually most of them are out by you at the coast, met some really great people who are just really good bunch of people, most importantly trying, like, looking after the collective, you know, really trying to look after everyone, like inclusive kind of vibe going on, very non-competitive, very just good fun, light-hearted people doing some lovely work. Next week I'm going away actually on a retreat with a girl from the coast, Ellie Coakley. I don't know if you know her. No. She's got a page called 4 Moons on Instagram. She's a lovely soul, and I'm going away and retreat with her next week. So that's going to be lovely. So there's loads of stuff. I mean, there's just loads of cool stuff going on around here.
There's a lot,
Yeah, you connect in with one. Instagram's a great place. Connect in with one, and you can surely start finding other people. And if someone doesn't meet your vibe, there's always someone else doing similar work on a different vibe.
Absolutely, yeah. Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck with your men's group.
Yes.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fun. The journey is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, thanks,
we'll
Chris.
See. Awesome. I think we hug. I hug my guests at the end.
Oh, go on. I love a good hug.